So good morning. I'm just sitting here doing like nativity stuff, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about the very beginnings of our women's team. Really, the whole point of Angelique Speaks is to talk about empowering women, uniting women, and making them feel part of something that is just theirs. And using that really to enrich their lives, and like my tagline, enrich, rescue, and rock your world, is to use those elements of the game that help you mentally, almost like an escapism, I suppose, maybe. But the whole point of this particular video is just to talk about how we started, really. And one of the most important questions that you should ask, I think, any team when they're starting out, whether it be rugby or work or anything like that, really, which is, okay, why are you doing this? What is your motivation for being here? It's a question that is promoted by the RFU, and I think at intervals it's been asked of coaches at a certain time when it was maybe a little bit more fashionable to ask it, but maybe got lost along the way a little bit. But maybe the elite squads do it, maybe they don't, but I think it's an important question. Now, whether that question is asked in the presence of your coaches or not, and in our case it wasn't. In our case it was encouraged by our coach, but it was actually something that was suggested that we did amongst ourselves, because we would be the team. Now, again, the physicality of rugby, the fact that you have no personal space on a rugby pitch, really, is important. It's another important. I'll talk about the physical closeness to other human beings in a game like rugby a little way down the line, because I think that's an element of rugby which and what happens with that often gets forgotten. But this is what happened. So we had a private group, and I said, okay, ladies, I think everybody ought to just take a moment and have a think and decide what it is about what we're doing that makes them want to do it, and why are you here? What are you hoping to get out of it? Now, with women's rugby, you are going to get girls as well, particularly. Women not so much maybe, actually, but girls certainly. Why are you doing it? Because my mate's doing it. Because a group of us are doing it. Because I don't want to be on my own. I don't want to be the one that's left out. When you ask women that question, they've probably gone through a certain element of life experience when it comes to friendships. It gives them a sort of an inner knowledge about what they actually do want from life, and what for friendships, and what they're going to achieve within the sport that may be related to that. And in fact, maybe they're there because it's not what they want from the sport. So the question was asked. Now, there was obviously a couple that I want to get fit, I want to feel better about myself, and then there was the ones that really stand out in my mind, the ones that said things like, and I was included in that, and I'm happy to at a later date make my admission on what I said, but I won't mention any names when it comes to this sort of thing, but things like I had my children, and then I was isolated for so long that I didn't have any friends. I didn't interact with anybody, and because of my personality, or the type of person I am, nobody actually said, are you okay? Are you alright being on your own? So I want to be part of this team, because for me, my experience of the sport, be it through relatives or whatever, is they're always never alone. There's always people that you can talk to, and there's always people that you can have a bit of banter with, or have a drink with, or bump into, and they'll always talk to you, because you've had a physical closeness that's almost enforced on you, but actually underlines you know, a human touch in not in a way, in a reassurance way. You've been slammed into by another woman and tackled by another woman, but actually it sort of reminds you that you know, we don't touch each other enough, we don't hug enough, we don't do those things. So that was one admission. There was one private admission which didn't actually go onto the public feed, which was I'm in an abusive relationship and I want to find a way out, and I think that you group of ladies could do that. Now, things have changed in that situation for that person, but that sort of thing, that question, means that when you go to training and you know what the answer to that is, whether it be just me or whether that admission had been made in front of the entire team, you have a different perception of that person, because you're stood, it's freezing, you've got jumpers on, you might have your scrum cap on, you certainly got your mouth guard in because you're thinking, okay, we might do a bit of contact tonight, or you're doing team building exercises, or it doesn't matter what you're doing, but you're stood around the people that you've had a conversation with in private, knowing something about them that no one else knows. You never talk about it when you're in that situation. You never say, oh, are you all right? Because it really isn't the right time. But having that innate knowledge about what the teammates that you're with, what their reasons for being there are, gives you an advantage. And that doesn't give you an advantage necessarily on the pitch, doesn't make your set moves any better, perhaps, doesn't, but what it does do is it gives you an advantage, because it means that when that game's finished and when that whistle's blown, you know what it means to them. You know what the right things are to say to them to make them feel empowered. And that, I believe, is what rugby is doing for women. Maybe not all women, maybe the very young women who are maybe not in a space of their time or their life where they can see that. But it's doing that. And I think all these women that are joining rugby teams and starting rugby teams, you know, ask that question right at the beginning. What are you doing here and why are you doing it? Take the answers and embrace them, good or bad. You know, you might find out something about somebody that really does explain an awful lot. And you might just be that person that stops them being in the situation that they're in, or making them feel like there's something else. So yeah, ask the question. What are you doing here and why are you doing it?